I'm Chris Gibson, Sector Vice President from Trimble. So let's look at how geospatial capabilities are enabling workflows across a variety of industries. I think the key element here is that it's understanding the customer needs. So from a manufacturer's perspective, it's building a relationship with customers, getting deep into their workflows and really migrating from task productivity to process productivity. So understanding what challenges they are trying to solve and then working to solve those challenges for them. I think here we can, if we look at a couple of examples where we've been successful, if we take deformation monitoring on mines, is integrating a number of geospatial and geological sensors into a total solution that will provide an early warning system on the stability of the slope of the mine, so that if there's a potential slide going to happen, we can predict that, give an early warning, and it enables the workforce, the assets to be removed from the mine prior to a catastrophe happening. The same can happen around dams, again on the monitoring of the walls of the dam to determine if there is a potential issue going to happen, that again remedial action can be taken prior to a disaster or catastrophe happening. So the critical piece is really understanding the customer, understanding what they're trying to do, and then building a solution around that for them. The other way to look at it is actually from a manufacturer out is to follow the data. So somebody's collecting the data, but what are they doing with that data? How's that data being used? Maybe 3 or 4 phases down the line in terms of the process, and then you can understand the challenges that a customer is facing, and then you can start to build out a solution that helps solve that challenge for the customer. So if you look at how we view the end-to-end workflow or the process productivity, there's 4 main elements to this. So the first element is around the collection of the data. So the collection of the data can come from multiple sources. It may come from a surveyor out in the field using a total station or GNSS receiver to collect data. It could come from LiDAR activity. It could come from satellite imagery. It could come from mobile mapping vehicles. There's multiple sources for data, and one of the challenges now going forward is the big data some of these devices are bringing in is how do you process that data. So the second phase in the process productivity is around the processing of the data. So using the office tools to take that data and start to put into something more meaningful for the customer, that start getting down the path to making the decisions that they need to support their business. Once you process the data, then we really get down into the modeling. So can you start to provide either 3D visualization of how the data looks and how the data may look if they're doing predictive modeling. And the second one may be around process modeling. Again, looking at how a process could be improved, or do you need to dispatch a workforce out to solve a problem, and you build a more efficient, more effective process around that. Then the fourth element comes into the analytics and the decision making, and this really is the most critical piece for the customer, is looking at, from the data I've got, what decision do I need to make, and how and when do I need to make that decision, whether that be around deformation monitoring, when do I provide on a construction site any materials that need to be used in that construction site, on a farm, when do I need to apply pesticides or fertilizers. So there's multiple decisions that need to be made. It's just a matter of helping the customer to make that decision. So the adoption of geospatial workflows, geospatial productivity is different from different parts of the world, or there's different drivers behind the need to adopt geospatial processes. So if we look at USA, Western Europe, a lot of the geospatial adoption relates to productivity improvements. So that could be productivity improvements relating to workforce, relating to the use of materials, as well as looking at the quality and the safety of the workforce, the quality of the finished product. If you look at some of the emerging parts of the world where maybe labor costs aren't as high as they are in the developed world, in the USA and Europe, there's different aspects that drive the adoption or the need for geospatial processes. So if you look at some parts of the world, they may be more concerned around time to completion, the quality of the finished product, and again the safety of the workforce. So that is the rationale for driving geospatial processes, rather than really looking at what are we getting out of, or how can we reduce our workforce, how can we be more efficient and more effective in the labor that we use on the project. So if we look at the data management and the data integration from a customer perspective, you find that a number of customers have their data in a variety of databases. So the challenge then is, how do you extract the information you need to help solve a particular problem or a particular challenge for the customer? So the key element here is having the tools that will extract the appropriate data and then put that into a structure that helps solve the overall problem, whilst leaving the original data in its raw status within its original database. So I think we'll see over time more and more development across the industry of these capabilities coming into place through web-based services, where that data can be extracted, it can be put together to solve the customer problem in the way that they need their problem solving, but leaving that original data in its raw format. So I think as we look at the development of web-based services, the need of standards is going to become greater and greater. And I think here it's critical that all of us work closely with organizations like OGC to start to develop those standards that we all adopt in our software, that we can then ensure that the data integration, the data interoperability is seamless from a customer perspective. So if I look at this from two aspects. So one is looking at the current incumbents, so those that are particularly from a GIS and survey profession, who have been in that profession for a number of years. So I think they obviously understand the core elements of geospatial capabilities, but as a relatively conservative profession, it's how do we help and encourage them to look and adopt some of the new capabilities that are coming into the marketplace, whether it's through photogrammetry, etc., and bringing that capability in and leading that into the 3D modeling and then into an analytical and decision-making element. So it's encouraging them and giving them tools to adopt the new technologies that are coming in. The second element is really looking at the next generation that's coming in and ensuring that we have a sufficient number of resources coming into the profession. And that's where I see that there's a significant gap today and one of our challenges, and I think it's incumbent on all of us involved in the geospatial industry, is that we actually provide more active encouragement into high schools and into universities to encourage people to take on geospatial professions or geospatial courses, but also explain to them how exciting, what a great opportunity this is for them in the world. They look at the industry they can go into, the way this can be applied in the future, the capability that will come with it, the skill sets they'll need to learn. I think it's a great time to be coming into the geospatial profession. We just need to do a more effective job of getting that message out to the youngsters of today that this is a great opportunity for their careers. So there's a number of things that we do. So in most parts of the world, we support universities both by providing instruments to them and trying to ensure they're working with the latest instruments and not something that's maybe 5 to 10 years old, which is something we see fairly regularly, and also ensuring they have the latest version of the software applications as well, because you really want the students coming out of the courses to be using the latest and greatest capabilities rather than maybe using technology that's 5 to 10 years old. Another program which is unique that we've just helped to support in California is a high school has actually built a geospatial center, and Trimble has been a major sponsor of that program, which actually the center will open in a couple of months' time. And that really is looking at bringing geospatial capabilities to high school kids, and that's where you can really capture their mindset and demonstrate to them again how exciting the whole profession could be. And if you can capture them at between 12 and 16, and then they can go to university and study geomatics or engineering, you've got somebody who's ingrained in the profession when they come out into their working life.